But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. Hi Adam, how you doing? Very good evening, people, indeed. We, I think, have an interesting stream coming up. I found some more liberal Zionist bullshit. I also have some old US propaganda films from like the 1950s. Anti-communist propaganda films from the YouTube channel of the National Archive that I thought we might have a little look at. So yeah, how's everybody doing? I've actually had an unusually good day. As you will note, if you wait, no you won't because I don't have that turned on. Yeah, there we go. Now it's up there. Somehow that got turned off. I am now over 40% of the way to fully funding the Ines Alamo project, thanks to one very generous contribution, which has also helped me get from being sort of acutely, severely fucked to mildly to moderately, chronically fucked, and that is a major improvement. So in this year from hell that I've been having, that's an improvement. Yeah, I thought so. We got two of them here. One of them is called Face to Face with Communism. And I thought maybe we could check that one out and then look at some of the liberal Zionist jabronis over at J Street. I found some other stuff of theirs that I hadn't noticed before. I think it might be relatively new. Because I'm trying to... We've looked at a lot of like hardline right-wing Zionist bullshit on here. And liberal Zionists often seriously get let off the hook. You know, people just kind of stand over in the corner. It's like Canadian liberals who have this sense of moral superiority just because their next door neighbor happens to be Hannibal Lecter. And they're like, yeah, see, we suck less than the people immediately south of us. And I mean, that's kind of how liberal Zionists have managed to go. So I thought I'd get some of that into the rotation. But I think, why not start out once I can find the right window. Hello, River Rune. Welcome back. Okay, this is called Face to Face with Communism, 1951. The National Archives, they have a YouTube channel, and it's full of all sorts of actually quite interesting film material, including these propaganda films. Bonsoir. Okay, here we go. It's even got that old-timey audio glitch going on. It's an armed forces information film, so you know that shit's gonna be really, I mean, just an objective source of, useful information that is in no way biased. think anybody else would buy it. I just say good soundtrack. Beats the shit out of Darman. Shit! Oh wait, I'm a communist. It's cool. I'm face to face with communism every time I look in the mirror. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. It shocked me. It's the font. The fucking font. The font is dramatic. This happens to be the story of Sergeant Jim Conway, U.S. Air Force. Just as easily, no punctuation, it could have been the story of Corporal Ron Shipman, U.S. Marine Corps? Corporal Stanley O'Brien, U.S. Army, or any other just random person. This could be the story of seamen. What we mean, why didn't you just say this in the first place? What we mean is that it could happen to anyone, even to you. Like, why didn't you just say that? Like, I mean, this is written like a fucking live journal post from like 2004, where it's like, yeah, what I'm trying to say is this, except no, you know, but what we mean is this, and although, interestingly, it apparently could not happen to officers. All of those are listed in NCO ranks. So I guess it could not happen to, you know, Ensign Paul Krapcockman, U.S. Navy. See. You'd think with the Pentagon's budget, they'd have been able to spring for some better lighting.
In Conway. On a 3-day pass. Home's a little too far to go, so I'm just looking for a change of scene and some good sack time.
A good sack at night? What the fuck does that mean?
Well, maybe a little fun. I like this town.
It's good to whistle in.
Quiet enough to relax.
Everything's strangely dark. Why has he got a doctor's bag? What the fuck's he keeping that? I mean, what? No, that's a dog carrier. He's carrying his poodle. He doesn't have air holes. His poodle's gonna die.
Oh, come on, you gotta read no, thank you. Come on, you listen. I'm on pass. When I'm on pass, I don't want to read nothing about nothing.
So you want to read something about something. That's why I'm offering you a newspaper.
So run along. Send your paper.
I'm trying to, but motherfuckers don't want to read anything about anything.
Okay.
Gee, thanks! Right on!
Communists take control. The Inquirer Journal. So the town is called Inquirer, I guess. Yes, clearly, Lieutenant Dan just didn't.
I guess it's about 7 o'clock the next morning. I'm fast asleep in this room at the Decatur Hotel on the square. I don't know how long it's been.
You don't need to narrate it. We're actually looking at you. Also, you don't look fast asleep.
Going on, but
oh fuck, it's homecoming. Oh, nuts. I hate it when the communists take over and they haven't even got the sheet music for the International. What's this fucking high school marching band bullshit? I love how the communist takeover is just sort of a random thing. It just happens. You really just have to appreciate how much better organized they seem to think we are than we are. Like, so nothing happened before this. Communists just sort of walked in and they put on a marching band, and that means they get to run the shit. Did you know that was that easy? I didn't know that was that easy. We just need to get a fucking marching band. We don't even need to.
Anybody wants to get me sleep, it's always easy. How do you expect a guy to sleep with all that racket going on out there?
Wait, does he think the hotel is responsible for the marching band?
You know, if you'd wised me up to this shindig, I'd have gone someplace else.
I thought you knew about it, Sergeant. It's in the paper.
Yeah. Well, if I was running a hotel, I'd have enough.
You got the mail ready?
There it is.
Is this everything?
Everything.
Okay, you'll get it back when it's sent.
So when communists take over, it will be sort of like with the NSA now, except on paper.
Hey, did that mail belong to the folks who are staying here? That's right. But, well, since when have they started censoring mail in this country?
Since today, apparently.
Told you it was in the papers.
Now, just exactly what kind of a bird is it?
It's a red-breasted nuthatch. Thank you for asking.
Don't let it get you down, Sergeant.
It got me up. And anyone who gets me up when I don't have to get up is a... Brother, you just lost the customer.
Well, shit, I'm sure he was counting on this one Air Force sergeant to move in here or something.
Number, please.
Oh, operator, would you give me long distance, please?
Long distance.
Long distance. I want to speak to Miss Maisie Goldberg at Calumet 54902.
Goldberg, because they didn't want to say Goldberg, I guess, it being the 50s.
Do you have a permit number?
Huh? A what?
A permit number.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and not to mention, I mean, like, this whole idea that it's just sort of like one day, it's totally unheralded. If you didn't read the paper the day before, you wouldn't know. Like, that's not how that has ever happened. Like, everybody was fine, and then somebody's like, hey, why don't we have a marching band and a hammersickle on the flag and make it a not a very well done flag as well. And everyone, and we're gonna, censor the phone calls and stuff. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, when did that work that way?
A permit number? What's this?
All long-distance calls must be cleared with the Commissar of Communications and a permit number obtained.
Say, what kind of chicken? What's all this hogwash you're feeding me? The phone
What is it, chicken or hogwash?
calls to my girlfriend.
All long-distance calls must be cleared with the Commissar of Communications and a permit number obtained.
Permit number?
Fucking hell, they're just weird in Decatur.
Commissar of Communications? It just doesn't make sense. There's something wrong with this town. Seriously wrong. He looks like a wrong guy, too.
He looks really well dressed to be a bellhop. He looks like a lawyer.
I've got to see what's
So
going
wait,
on.
I mean, is the idea that it's just communism in Decatur? Is that the idea? Like, not, so if you have to just get to Rockford if you're not cool, or how's this working? Whereas the idea is that communists took over the entire country, and if you didn't hear about it in the paper yesterday, you wouldn't know? This is really well thought out. I mean, the people who wrote this very clearly... Hey, it's fucking Walt Disney, that's who that is. The people who wrote this very clearly were thinking about the sort of social phenomena that lead people to have a revolution. Wait, why is he leering at the audience like that? What, is the audience's fly open or something?
The Communist Party of America will direct all organizations of the people, both social and state. The private operation of hotels, banks...
Wait, local and state, so what, it's just like Illinois?
Stores,
or are we talking Decatur, well, Chicago, I'm guessing it's Decatur, Illinois.
Services will be permitted only at the discretion of the Council of People's Commissars. Any such operation conducted without official sanction is a crime against the state and will be punished accordingly.
Yeah, I know, you never hear about this. I got the impression that the rest of Illinois was kind of dead. I mean, except for Joliet, where they have a really fucked up sense of humor, where they're like minor league ball teams called the Slammers, and their entire stadium is prison themed. But apparently Decatur, wow.
Consider this as an encroachment on your individual liberty.
See, like, so the idea is that there's a whole system of multiple levels of councils, apparently, and everybody's only just hearing about this? Like, how's that work? Like, where did you find the staff for the councils?
People will have to be re-educated.
This must be some kind of a gag. But that phone call.
The really lousy sound system the guy's talking on.
That censored mail.
Walt Disney at the reception desk.
Who is that zombie up there?
He's one of the commissars.
What's he trying to do?
He's telling us that
We have no time.
we're not allowed to talk, we're only allowed to listen.
You...
Inability to learn fast is sabotage. All right, comrade. Now I'm going to tell you what all this means in plain American.
Well, good. Because this is
town
Decatur.
Is now an active unit in the Communist International.
So it is just Decatur.
From now
Communist
on, the
Decatur.
welfare of the people's state comes first. Most of you misguided people have been living under a reactionary capitalist democracy for so long.
Wait, where was the democracy, though?
You find it difficult to understand what we mean by the welfare of the people's state. The people's state is you.
Not me, brother. Not me. You might be fooling some of those jokers with this people's state routine. But not me.
Wow.
Why didn't somebody do something? Why don't they call the cops?
Yeah, I mean... Well, none of this, like, I mean, the whole setup for this thing doesn't make any great amount of sense.
Yeah, the cops.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone who knows how to beat the crap out of representatives of the working class, it's the cops. Sorry, sir, we've abolished the police. This is now a community center.
Take him away. And come here, you won't get away with this. People won't stand for it. As soon as they realize the extent to which you've taken away their liberty, never mind the farewell speech.
This has been going on for 5 minutes.
Not you too, Chief. I guess so. But why? Why?
Well, I mean, a cab. It's something to do with a cab. A taxi, I guess.
You. For performing my duties, I guess, as chief of police of this community.
I've been crushing the workers for as long as I can remember, and now they're holding it against me.
According to the best of my ability and according to the Constitution of the United States.
Well, no, I mean, he's in the Air Force. He's probably kind of used to authoritarianism. It's the band music. I mean, the key to this is that what annoys him is that they woke him up with that shitty high school marching band music at 7 in the morning when he's on a 3-day pass.
Now what do I do? I gotta do something. Gotta get out of here.
What about your luggage? What about your little poodle carrier?
I will expect it to be clearly understood that it will tolerate no interference in the execution of its public responsibilities. Any person hindering or delaying an officer of the people's state in the performance of his duties will be considered an enemy of the people and punished accordingly.
Wait, now he's standing in the same place he was before.
Loyal of the people's state to cooperate with the council at all times, to make any sacrifices which may be ordered for the benefit of the people's state as a whole. Remember,
you know, for communists, they're really spending they're not using the word communism a whole lot. I'm beginning to wonder if maybe they're not really communists.
the future of the people's state is your future. You must think, act, and live for the state. The people of this community have waited a long time for the right kind of leadership. Now that you have it.
Wow, I mean, they've already got like all these campaign ribbons and shit. They've only been in power for what, like 5 minutes?
Remember that the people's state is your state only if you give it your full and unswerving cooperation in its fight for freedom. No one can get out of his duty.
Freedom, fuck that.
Get out of here. Yeah.
Well, then why don't you? Why don't you just fuck off? Nobody stopped you going over to the cops.
Roads blocked. Newspaper office.
It would have been neat if they showed us the roadblocks.
Bank seat. Maybe I'm dreaming all this. No. I gotta get out of here.
Then why don't you?
But how?
Walking. It's just Decatur.
Time is an important factor in the establishment of the people's state. To avoid bloodshed, citizens will obey all orders of people's militia. Persons found engaging in acts of sabotage will be summarily shot. The state demands action. It's on the basis of his actions it demands loyalty.
Now remember to like, remember to subscribe, push the notification bell. Gonna need you to copy and paste this into your Facebook chat groups and your Telegram chat groups.
The community will be judged. Anytime a citizen doubts whether he's doing the right thing,
You call it freedom, you and your jackal?
I don't have any jackals. This is Decatur. We have poodles.
Who elected you to run this community? By what right do you tell us what to believe in and where to live?
He hasn't told them where to live. They were already living in Decatur. What, they weren't living in Decatur before this? He just brought them into Decatur? Is Decatur that bad? I've never been.
What makes you think you can tell us where to travel and where to work and what to read? We're Americans, and we believe in the freedom of the individual to make up his mind for himself. It's not the state that comes first. It's the people in it. And if you don't recognize the rights of the people, you don't belong here. Take your hands off me.
That is such a cheap-ass flag. Like, they couldn't even just use the CPA USA emblem or something.
Let go! Let me go! Let me go!
I had to. Well, I mean, it is, though. It actually is. It's not a very good drawing of the people there.
All right, come on your feet. Let's go. Get out of here. Come on. The defendant in charge.
Wow, it's so fucked up. I mean, he's getting arrested just for fighting with a couple of cops. That would never happen in America.
Refusal to work with occupation specified by the Commissar of Employment. The defendant.
No, he isn't. Surely he was charged with beating up the cops.
His attitude throughout has been inimical to the welfare of the people's state. Violation of State Code, Article 47, Section 6, Paragraph 4.
Wait, they've got that detailed illegal system already? I mean, again, remember, they only just got here.
Respecting private ownership of commercial enterprise,
engaged in retail sale and distribution of essential commodities without
Oh, okay,
government
it isn't the guy.
permit.
Has the defendant confessed to these crimes?
Yes.
The defendant is sentenced to an indefinite term in State Labor Camp 14.
But I
How many labor camps do you need for Decatur?
didn't confess. I didn't say a word. Is it wrong to sell bread? I demand that...
Well, it's no dream now, that dirty...
He keeps on not finishing the sentence. That dirty what, though?
They got me where they want me. Oh, if I could only get my hands on
The
it.
defendant is charged
On that what?
with conspiracy under Defense of the People's Act, Article 16, Paragraph 4, to wit, attempting to do bodily harm to officers of the state.
Something that would have been totally normal to, you know, you totally get away with that in my America.
You confess to this crime?
What crime? Look, I don't recognize this court or those bunch of hoods you call officers of the state.
The defendant will confine himself to...
No, MAGA communism is like, that is a separate but equally important grift. The people who, MAGA communism is the people who don't want to do, is the grifters who've decided they don't fuck with Caleb Maupin anymore. That's Hinkson Jackal, that's, Has the Unwashed.
answering questions rather than raising them.
I'm entitled to defend myself.
You appear to be a sensible, realistic citizen. Perhaps you went to the aid of that woman through a mistaken sense of chivalry.
I'll call it what you like. And it wasn't a mistake either. That woman had a perfect right to say what she did. And everything she said goes double for me.
The charge against you is very serious. If it's necessary to...
Wait, that judge didn't have a mustache a second ago.
Add treason to that charge. We'll go hard with you.
Treason? Say, if there's anybody guilty of treason, it's that zombie who's shooting his mouth off out there in the square.
Is there anything further to say?
I sure do.
What?
You don't seriously think you're going to get Americans to go communist, do you?
Wait, so I thought the idea was that they already had. Like, how does this movie think that a communist takeover even works?
Not with all those benefits you've been handing out. You know, the trouble with you and all your crowd is you think
Bad screenwriting. And you can't decide which flag you want. That's a totally different flag than they had before.
make people act like puppets while you dangle them on that worn-out string of ideas that should have been buried along with the guy that invented them. Oh, you mugs are living back in the 19th century with the bustle skirts.
Yeah, that's communist for you right there with the bustle skirts.
And mutton chop whiskers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do love some mutton chop whiskers.
You're just about as old-fashioned as my grandmother's corset.
Wow. This guy has some interesting yeah, like what benefits? They just, I mean, that's the other thing about this. Apart from just being, like, ideologically ridiculous, and it's just badly written because they keep on introducing stuff that they haven't shown us. And what's this guy's obsession with bustles and corsets? Like, maybe the Air Force is an overcompensation?
Seem to know a great deal about us.
About bustles and corsets?
Hey, kid.
I know all about them.
Just try pushing Americans around and you get just about as far as the creek.
What? The idea being that these guys are what, Canadians? They're Why isn't this Minnesota then? Why shouldn't this be Duluth, the People's Republic of Duluth or something?
Sure. You find a few suckers here and there, the kind of guys that live by letting George do it. But you aren't gonna
letting George do what?
Fool anybody who knows anything about you. And remember some of those tricks you pulled over the last 30 years. And there's more than enough of us to take care of you.
I admire your spirit, not your knowledge. Communism needs men like you.
Yeah, absolutely nothing is communist about any of it. I mean, but that's like, that almost seems churlish to bring up. This is a 1950s U.S. military propaganda film. Like, obviously, it's not going to get communism right. I'm sure the screenwriters were up late at night reading, reading Marx and Lenin and Trotsky and Kollontai, just trying to make sure they got the ideological realism going. Yeah, I know. I don't know who George is.
A little reschooling will do you a world of good. I'm going to offer you the opportunity of swearing allegiance to the Communist International and the People's State of America.
Wait, I thought it was just Decatur.
I advise you to accept.
And if I don't?
You'll be punished to the full extent of the law.
You want to know something, Judge?
I mean, Caleb Maupin, this is like porn for Caleb Maupin, because he does think fascism is communism.
You and all your commie friends can go plumb to blazes.
Why would we plumb in blazes? There's plenty of plumbing to be done right here.
Under the powers invested in me by the People's State, defendant is sentenced to death. Sentence will be carried out at the time and place to be determined by the court. Move the prisoner.
Wonder if it made sense.
I wonder if they could turn the lighting up a little bit.
The stuff I said in the courtroom.
No, not really. I mean, you kept on stopping yourself.
Quiet in here. Like a tomb. Maybe I'll be in a real one some morning. Dawn's usually the time they do it.
What do you mean? How is there a usually? This just happened. This just started. There hasn't been more than one dawn since this thing started, apparently.
Kyle. Maybe they do their killing at night.
Maybe they're vampires. Maybe they're werewolves.
Oh.
Maybe they're not very good at locking their cell doors. That's the problem with your Decatur Stalinists. They just don't, they're just really slapdash on security. A bit of lighting, please? Like... You're only using like a third of the screen. I can't see you. He has no head. He's headless. He's just a torso. I can't, like, okay, we've got feet. Is this film just damaged, or did they just like this badly? Get to Rockford.
Everything closed tight.
What, he was trying to get into the mailbox?
A ghost town. Like the place had been hit by...
Well, everything except the literal prison, which was just wide open with no guards. Oh, this is back when being hit by a plague was considered a bad thing that you should avoid, rather than something to live with.
Am I the only one left alive? Where is everybody? Maybe it's a trick.
Maybe there's a
Any
Bears
minute they'll
game.
mow me down. Walk for freedom. Wonder how many of them were out here this morning. Joseph, Cerrito.
Well, I mean, surely the reason you have, like, this sort of a monument is that they're the ones who didn't come back?
Herman Cole, Abraham Davis, Thomas Davenport. Maybe they're dead. They've forgotten what they fought for. Feels like the
To
end
be
of the world.
fair, Caleb gets the lighting more or less okay. It's the camera work that he sucks at, whereas this, the camera work's not terrible, but the lighting is atrocious.
It's gonna be a commie world. I don't want it anyway.
Get your government hands off my Medicare.
Well, why don't they get it over with?
Probably because it's too fucking dark and nobody can see.
Nothing happened.
Maybe instead of just skulking around the streets, you should just get the fuck out of Dodge, my
But
dude.
my paper, my money. I had to get back to my hotel.
Yeah, that should be your priority, not getting executed. You should get your stuff. That's really well thought out.
The lobby was dark and the night clerk asleep. I was really pushed and I hit the bed. Just for a minute. Seemed safe enough for a little while. But I guess I fell fast asleep.
What, you got to keep his room key?
Bright day when I woke up. And I thought, if they're gonna get me, let them get me in uniform. The only way out was through the lobby.
Where's Walt Disney? See, this dream is a cautionary tale. The whole point of this dream was to show to, enlisted personnel of the U.S. Armed Forces in the 1950s that they really needed to get a more realistic understanding of, like, fucking at least a little bit of Marx, maybe, because their idea of what communism looks like just doesn't make sense.
Something's happened to this place. Or maybe it happened to me. Maybe I dreamed the whole thing after all.
That's a possibility.
Here's my key, room 25. You got the bill?
All right. It's $5, sir.
Fucking hell. On those prices, you could live on today's wages. $5 for a hotel room?
Hey, I'll fly down with you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Excuse me, ma'am. Very sorry.
Oh, it's perfectly all right.
Something's happened all right. The town looks just the way it did when I first saw it.
So maybe it was just a dream?
Quiet, clean, friendly.
With apparently no crosswalks, no traffic signals, no protections for pedestrians.
Yeah.
It's his dental work. It's supposed to be scary dental.
Morning, Sergeant. How are you feeling today?
Say, aren't you the man that...
That's right. I'm the judge that sentenced you to death.
Wait, what?
I see you're still alive.
Guess I didn't sentence you to death for very well. I'm not very good at it. I've only just started.
Yeah.
Went fine. Better than we expected. In the papers all over the country by now. Next week's issue of Life magazine, too.
Wait, what? That Decatur isn't really a Marxist-Leninist state?
Cigarette, Sergeant? No, thanks. You know, when we first talked it over, a lot of the fellas shouted it down.
Shouted what
It
down?
wasn't necessary. A bunch of us thought it was. Always seemed to me no better way to show a community how it'd be if the communists took over than to act it out. Don't you think so?
Why not ask communists?
Yes.
Fella said I did a swell job with that legal language. My lawyer wrote it out for me. You did a swell job too, young fella. You looked as though you swallowed it all. Hook, line, and sinker.
Did I?
You certainly did. I guess they keep you boys pretty well informed. I could tell by the way you tore into me. Guess it's part of your training.
Oh, yeah, if there's one thing that training in the U.S. military does, it teaches you to rebel against authority. That's totally part of their training.
I was wondering whether knowing all the answers the way you did was part of your training.
Oh, sure.
What, that was him knowing all the answers?
Well, if all the people understood things the way you did, that stage revolution wouldn't have been necessary.
Well, we try to keep up with things. I couldn't tell him I'd been fooled.
But it was pretty obvious.
Maybe if I'd read the paper the night before, I wouldn't have been. But I did tell the old boy how the service keeps us in the know. When it was all told, I guess he understood that for all of us, military or civilian, it boiled down to whether you were sucker enough to want life
in the U.S. military?
Square, yes. Or whether you wanted the American.
Yeah, cops aren't supposed to be arresting the chief of police. They're meant to, and shopkeepers. They're meant to be shooting marginalized people. The American way. Well,
the country...
That's so much faster than trains in the U.S. go now.
Sure looked good to me that day. Better than it had ever looked before. I was thinking about that town. And about
fucking Decatur.
About the towns all over America. Just like
Decatur, Georgia, Decatur, Tennessee.
I'm wondering how many of them needed that kind of a joke.
Yeah, because
I didn't think there were many.
There we are. Face to face with communism, 1951. Now, I've got some more liberal Zionist J Street bullshit. I've got a couple actually. There are a few that actually look interesting here. One is J Street state. This is from 4 months ago, so relatively recent. J Street's statehood proposal. What you need to know. I'm sure that will be educational. And then there's a debate between the liberal Zionists of J Street and the hardline right-wing Zionists of Stand With Us in Tarzana, California. Servus. Kind of interested to hear the statehood proposal. We've got a fair bit of time, actually.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
See, this is how you can tell that it's
delay
liberal Zionism.
here as I see the numbers of people logging into the
They're racist as hell, but they put their pronouns in their bio.
webinar. Happy for you to join us for this very important Policy Center webinar where we will be diving into J Street's latest policy proposal that was circulated earlier this week. My name is Adina Vogel-Ayalon, Vice President and Chief of Staff at J Street, and I am honored to be here moderating this webinar with two of my wonderful colleagues, as well as an honorary colleague and a good friend. And I will introduce them in just a moment. But I will also just introduce a little bit of the topic and framing for our discussion. We will have the opportunity to...
Now, to give you some context for anyone who's unfamiliar with J Street showed up in, 2007. It was a response to the fact that increasingly large segments of, the Jewish population and the population as a whole in the U.S. was really seriously going off of hardline right-wing Zionism and starting to be more critical. And so this was, they are the pro-Israel, pro-peace lobby group whose entire job is to be the nice kind of Zionist, who also wants to, steal Palestinians' land and kill them, but doesn't want to do it in a way that would seem unseemly. One of their earliest things was they had a BDS debate, and Omar Barghouti, one of the leading people in the Palestinian BDS campaign, he made himself available to participate in the debate and they did not want to have a Palestinian involved in the debate. They refused to allow a Palestinian to participate in the J Street debate on the Palestinian BDS campaign.
Ask our panelists some specific questions about what J Street exactly is proposing and also how this is perceived by Israelis and Palestinians. And I, of course, want to encourage all of you to ask questions and to put those questions in the Q&A. I know we have received a lot of questions, and we hope to try and cover as much territory as we can in this webinar. So, of course,
this is their latest stab at relevance, because liberal Zionism is kind of dying at the moment.
All aware that we're still in the midst of the Israel-Hamas war. Of course, the sentiment.
See, there you can already tell. They want credit for not being as, obviously just, shamelessly ugly and ghoulish as, the Quad, the JNS-TV ghouls that we sometimes watch on here. But when it comes to the fundamental framing, they will accept all of the bullshit.
Sentiment in Israel still is a sentiment of grief and mourning.
Not exactly. I mean, when you look at the polls, the sentiment in Israel is very much a sentiment of genocidal racism. Something like 80%, 90% of Jewish Israelis, according to one poll, felt that the Israeli military was not using enough firepower against Gaza.
The loss of their loved ones on and since October 7th, still grappling with the horror of that day and the trauma and sense of insecurity. Palestinians in Gaza, of course, are in the midst of their grief and trauma and insecurity. And
that's what she's going to call it, their grief and trauma and insecurity.
Daily seeking ways to survive the absolutely horrific consequences of the war and the dire humanitarian.
The absolutely horrific consequences of the war.
Humanitarian situation in the strip, and of course, the situation.
The dire humanitarian. Yeah. See, I mean, this is the thing. Treat the humanitarian situation like it was just a thing that happened, as opposed to something that Israel and the U.S. are doing to
on the West Bank for Palestinians has been quite volatile, and that is where Nidal is joining us from today. So you can touch on that perhaps maybe in the Q&A. But of course, many people are very skeptical that now is a time to
count me one of them.
Even be having this discussion, the discussion that we're having today. Is it the time for a U.S. administration to lead a bold initiative?
Well, it's J Street, so we can be pretty sure it's not a bold initiative.
J Street, we feel that that this is a time. We must not give up, and we cannot turn.
This is the time to just bring back the bullshit of the two-state solution, as if that was ever going to happen, as if it wasn't just the end game of apartheid.
Turn away from the tragedy, and we need to turn things around and build a better future that will be a better and secure future for Israelis and Palestinians. And we are here to discuss our newest policy proposal in which we are calling on the Biden administration to outline a bold and comprehensive regional peace initiative aimed at solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
A drinking game, every time they say bold.
As well as the broader Israeli-Arab conflicts. We do feel that it is time for a major shift in U.S. policy, and a centerpiece of this shift is an unprecedented offer of U.S. recognition of the state of Palestine.
U.S. recognition. What we mean by the state of... See, this is why the whole recognition thing is bullshit. If J Street is talking about recognition, then you know it's bullshit. Because the thing is, what they talk about recognizing as the state of Palestine is Israel's Palestinian Authority. It's Mahmoud Abu Talezi Abbas. Abu Mazen. The motherfucker who's in his the 19th year of his 4-year term. The guy who is totally beholden to Israel. Like, literally, he just exists to be a mall cop to protect the Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
Prior to such recognition by Israel. And of course, my colleague, Dr. Deborah Shushan, will go into more details about this specific proposal and all of the different conditions necessary to reach it. I want to encourage you, if you have not already, to read the Policy Center issue brief, which outlines the proposal as well as our FAQ. And if you don't receive our publications, please do sign up for our webpage, and my colleagues on the back end will put in those links into the chat so that you can make sure to have those resources. So I will introduce our wonderful panelists. I will start with the honorary member of the J Street team. I will start with Nidal, who is the Director General of the Palestinian Peace Coalition Geneva Initiative in Ramallah. And he...
The Palestinian Peace Coalition, never heard of them. حليف السلام الفلسطيني. Okay, found it. Arabic is not great. Let me see. Peace and reconciliation. Yeah, so, I mean, it's basically a normalization of. Here, I'm gonna drop the link. It's almost all in Arabic. But... there it is. That's the Palestinian Peace Coalition, a group I have literally never heard of. And the fact that the first time I'm hearing about them is because they're working together with fucking J Street is not encouraging.
He is the head of also the Palestinian-Israeli Peace NGO Forum's Political Commission, as well as the deputy chairman and founder of Freedom Forum Palestine, an organization that promotes civil...
Oh, Freedom Forum... God, who is Freedom Forum again? Now, here we go. SourceWatch, the Freedom Forum. SourceWatch is a great website when you're trying to figure out who the money behind various think tanks are. Yeah, I mean, just all sorts of dodgy liberal NGO shit here. Freedom Forum was established in 1991 under the direction of founder Alan H. Neuharth as a successor to a foundation started in 1935 by newspaper publisher Frank Gannett. It's not affiliated with Gannett Company. It's a diversified assets, non-partisan foundation dedicated to free press, free speech, and free spirit for all people. Who have we got in the trustees here? Tom Daschle, former Senate Majority Leader. We've got a general. Any other names that jump out here? Here, gonna drop this in here. SourceWatch is part of the project, the Foundation for Media and Democracy, or something like that. And what they do is they actually sort of follow the money on think tanks, and they've got a wiki style thing. So if you hear the name of a think tank someplace, or one of these policy institutes or whatever the hell, then it's always good to check them out, because they often have a lot of really useful information on like mapping where the money's coming from on these groups. So Freedom Forum's dodgy as hell.
Palestine. Thank you, Nidal, for being with
It's made up of the exact people who have been making sure that the Palestinians never get anything.
us at night over in Ramallah. And we also have with us Nadav Tamir, who is joining us from Israel. And
Nadav Tamir. Who's that? Paris Center for Peace and Innovation. Former Israeli diplomat. J Street Israel's new executive director. That's okay. Dodgy as hell. He's a major in the IDF Reserve Armor Corps. Well, maybe he'll get called up and meet Yassin 105. He was policy assistant to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Okay, so this guy is like, again, we're getting tons of people who are just so totally part of the problem. Because it's J Street, and J Street is people who are part of the problem but don't want you to be angry with them.
His home, and he is the executive director of J Street in Israel. He previously served in multiple roles in the foreign ministry, including political officer at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and as the Israeli consul general to New England. And Dr. Deborah Shushan, who is our director of policy at J Street.
Deborah Shushan. Let me see. Director of Government Affairs, J Street. Who is she? Oh, it's Debra. Okay. Let's see. What's her CV tell us? Americans for Peace. Americans for Peace Now. That's more liberal Zionism and the whole Peace Now and the whole peace camp in Israel. I mean, all you need to know about them is that they've never opposed the massacres in Gaza before this. What else have we got? And mostly just an academic sort. Here's her J Street bio.
She heads up our J Street Policy Center, and of course, many of you are probably know her.
They've got a fair bit of money. Why couldn't they spring for a better web camera? I'm getting a headache
From
looking
her
at
Shushan
this
Street
woman's
column
blurry
and
face.
other J Street Policy Center publications. She was previously a government professor at the College of William and Mary, teaching Middle East politics and international relations. So happy to be moderating this webinar with the three of you. So, Deborah, I'm going to turn it over to you first to lay out for us what exactly this bold initiative for comprehensive regional peace
There we go. It's bold.
is.
It's like
Thanks so
barbecue
much,
sauce.
Adina. And it is, it's very
Okay, there are lines of code between those eyebrows.
exciting to actually be on a J Street webinar as a panelist for a change, and to hand over the moderating reins to you. And great to be here with Nidal and Nadav. So let me lay out a little bit what we're talking about in terms of J Street's new initiative. What we are
let's hear what it actually is.
Calling for is a comprehensive regional peace initiative.
Okay, these are all fairly standard buzzwords so far. But look, when are we going to get to the fine print?
That is aimed at nothing less than resolving the Israeli-Palestinian and also the broader Israeli-Arab conflicts. And what we are recommending is that this process be jump-started with, as Adina said, the
Not by ending the genocide, notice.
unprecedented offer of American recognition of the state of Palestine, conditional on the Palestinians meeting certain requirements.
What requirements?
Prior to such recognition.
So wait, they have to meet requirements before the U.S. will recognize a state that isn't a state. Before they get to recognize a pretend state that is just three Mahmoud Abbases in a trench coat, with Israel controlling the purse strings.
By Israel. So in other words, this would mean that the destination of this process, two states would be clear up front.
Wait, but that's not the same thing. Okay, here's already an ambiguity. Because recognizing the state of Palestine does not mean Palestinians actually get a state. What all these countries are doing is just recognizing Israel's Palestinian Authority as a Palestinian state, even though Palestinians have absolutely no say in what that agency does. It's for all intents and purposes part of the Israeli government. That's not the same thing as an actual state, which would, of course, require land, which is kind of part of the problem because Israel's kind of taken most of it.
And there would not be an Israeli veto over Palestinian statehood, though, as I said, there would be conditions, very important conditions that the Palestinians would need to meet.
Such as?
We have outlined, as you'll see in our issue brief, a series of recommended steps.
Ooh, there are steps.
These are recommendations. Doesn't have to be exactly in this order, but
her eyebrows are really
what we are putting
me.
out as
it looked like they would change the order of operations
as food for thought to policymakers of the steps that we do think need to happen and an order in which they could happen. So the first thing that would need to happen, Adina, would be to first secure a step in the fighting and
secure, I guess she means a stop?
Obviously, the release of the hostages that
all of them
continue to be held in Gaza.
All of them?
By Hamas and other militants there.
What about the hostages that continue to be held by Israel?
During this stop in the fighting, there would be a surge in humanitarian aid to Gaza, which we all know is desperately needed. And
what's stopping that right now? Nobody seems to want to point out what's getting in the way of that.
The laying out by the United States of a comprehensive regional peace initiative.
Comprehensive regional peace. You can acronym that as CRAP.
So that would be the first step. The second step would be to ask...
it's good that you asked that, Adria. They don't, you see. Except that they have to meet certain fucking conditions.
The Israelis on the one hand and the Palestinians on the other hand for a set of parallel steps that each side...
Okay, so there are parallel steps within this step. What are the steps?
Would unilaterally take. These are on the Israeli side. These are steps that I think are well known in...
Like what?
Terms of, for example, what would need to happen on...
Such as?
The West Bank.
What are you saying would need to happen on the West Bank? Because, of course, the whole idea when people try to revive the two-state zombie is that supposedly this state is going to be on the West Bank in Gaza. On the West Bank, there's like fuck all land left. The bit that Palestinians get to live on looks like Bophuthatswana. It looks like multiple parallel microorganisms with a million checkpoints in between them.
And other steps that the Israelis would need to take for the Palestinians. Again, a series of steps that would be
She is really trying to avoid actually giving any specifics here. Now, let's see if she's as vague when she talks about what she's demanding of the Palestinians in order for the U.S. to even pretend to recognize that they have any kind of rights.
Then after those steps taken by Israelis and Palestinians,
that she has not yet told us anything about, except some of them have something to do with the West Bank. This is liberal Zionism right here.
And after the certification in particular of those steps that the Palestinian leadership would have taken, that would...
What steps would they have to take,
be the time for recognition of Palestine, the state of Palestine, by the United States, hopefully also, and I think also, by partners. And it's, so...
What? By partners?
That it wouldn't be something that the United States government would be doing alone.
Well, I mean, the U.S. government would not be doing it alone, because there are over 100 countries that have already done it.
And at the same time,
and it's had fuck all effect.
By the Arab League of the Arab Peace Initiative, which I think probably everyone knows. This is the API was initially issued in 2002 by the Arab League.
And the U.S. shat all over it. I have to just remind... Yeah, complete withdrawal from the occupied Arab territories, establishment of an independent sovereign Palestinian state, consider the conflict over, sign peace agreement with Israel, establish normal relations with Israel. Oh, and also attain a just solution in accordance with Resolution 194 for the problem of Palestinian refugees, which, on the one hand, makes a vague nod to the right of return without actually saying that the right of return is involved. And of course, this is just apartheid.
Led by Saudi Arabia, which put on the table full regional normalization.
I wonder if she's going to mention the bit about withdrawal from all the occupied territories.
With Israel, full relations in return for recognition of Palestinian statehood, roughly along the 1967 line.
This is a thing the U.S. U.S. politicians always do with the Arab Peace Initiative. They always leave out the bit about ending the occupation.
Potentially with land swaps, etc.
Not potentially with land swaps. It specifically says that Israel has to withdraw from all occupied Arab territories, which includes the Golan Heights, it includes the Bekaa Farms region belonging to Lebanon, it includes East Jerusalem, it includes the West Bank, and it includes the Gaza Strip. Not just potentially land swaps.
So we would hope that at that stage, along with recognition of...
And it's worth noting that withdrawal to the 1967 borders is also what Hamas has been offering in peace initiatives going back to 2008. And Israel and the U.S. response to that has always been to just murder huge numbers of people in Gaza. I mean, what we thought of in those days as huge numbers, although they have been completely eclipsed by what's going on now, of course. But because Israel has absolutely no intention of withdrawing, they didn't put all that money into building all these colonies there and to fuck off.
Palestine would be the reissuing of the Arab Peace Initiative, that key offer to Israel.
Again, she is just leaving out the withdrawal bit. She's leaving out the occupation completely. It's just an offer to Israel, as if Israel didn't have to do anything on their side.
By the broader Arab world. Now, following that, there would be negotiations, which would happen on two tracks. So the Israeli-Palestinian track would negotiate final status issues.
See, this is another thing. This is like the bullshit that the U.S. peace process always uses. They talk about the final status issues. The idea is they have to be negotiated. The U.S. will always use the word a negotiated solution. The reason for that is that they specifically do not want to recognize that Palestinians have certain non-negotiable legal rights in the situation. So the way that they kick that shit into the long grass and ensure that nothing ever happens is they say there's going to be a negotiated solution on the final status issues. And the final status issues, it's worth noting, like, the International Court of Justice actually back in, like, 2004, 2005, actually resolved them as a matter of law. In the decision on the wall, they had to actually address all the so-called final status issues. And in that advisory opinion, they came unanimously to the conclusion that, yeah, there are no issues for negotiation, actually. As a matter of law, the entire West Bank belongs to the Palestinians. There's no question about it. Israel has no right to be there at all. And same goes for East Jerusalem, same goes for the Gaza Strip. The final status issues that are always supposed to be left to these ultra-sensitive negotiations that are never going to happen, they already resolved as a matter of law that there is nothing to negotiate. The Palestinians are just entitled to all that they've been calling for.
And the end to that conflict. And I think it's important to note that U.S. recognition of Palestine would not be determinative of those final status issues.
Which means whether Palestinians have any land to live on. See, when we talk, that's what the final status issues are. Whether the Palestinians get any of their land back at all. So what she just said there, just to translate this into English, when she says the recognition would not be determinative of final status issues, what that actually means is that the recognition would mean fuck all. Because the only way the recognition means anything is if it is a recognition of the Palestinians' right to their territory. At the very least, you know, this isn't even talking about, like, their right to the 1948 occupied territories. We're talking about the 1967 occupied territories, which literally the entire world except even technically the U.S., agree Israel has no right to. Now, when she says that there's no determinative effect, what she's saying is that this recognition is totally for show. It does not mean a recognition of a state on particular borders or like anything that usually comes with the recognition of a state.
That would be negotiated directly between the Israelis and Palestinians. And at the same time,
which is to say, with the U.S. putting their finger on the scale.
There would be a second track, which would be Israeli, Saudi, and broader Israeli-Arab normalization.
It's weird how obsessed the U.S. is with Israeli-Saudi normalization. Saudi's been on the Israel side the whole time, because Saudi's also a U.S. client state. They, like, pretend publicly to be critical sometimes, but on the whole, and especially like behind closed doors, they are extremely supportive because they both get their weapons and money from the same fucking people. I mean, the U.S. is just obsessed with Israel-Saudi normalization, and Justin Potter on the Anti-Empire Project in his like Gaza sit reps was talking about how little sense that made. I was thinking about it after watching that. This is like a week or two ago. The only thing I can think of is the fact that Saudi Arabia actually accepted Chinese mediation in a deal with Yemen to like at least pause the U.S.-Saudi war. And so Saudi normalization in that sense would be a way to get Saudi Arabia to kiss the ring. And sort of try to counteract the fact that they'd already accepted Chinese mediation in the region.
As well, which would be a major incentive and carrot, hopefully, for the Israeli people. That
why would they give a shit about Saudi? Like nobody gives a shit about Saudi except like Washington D.C.
You know, that ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict would be part of this broader, comprehensive.
You see, if ending the conflict is a carrot to the Israeli settler population, That suggests that the conflict is not being ended on terms that will be amenable to Palestinians. Because ending this conflict on anything resembling like legal terms, never mind just terms, but just like ending it in terms of recognizing Palestinians' legal rights without getting into all the things that go way beyond their legal rights that they have every moral right to, would already require Israeli settlers to give up a lot. Like, they would have to give up the fucking West Bank, for one thing. They get their water from the West Bank. They're stealing it from Palestinians. They would, so giving up the West Bank would not be a carrot. That would be actually a really complicated situation that would create for the Israeli settler population, because suddenly they can't steal from Palestinian aquifers.
Regional process.
If they
and
were
then the
serious
last step
about
that
this.
we envision would be U.S. congressional action necessary to enable U.S. commitments to both sides.
Like, she has been so short. Like, the one thing that she got at all specific about she got specific about two things. One, recognition does not mean recognizing Palestinians' land rights. And two, Israeli-Saudi normalization, which nobody gives a shit about.
To both the Israelis, the Palestinians, and also to Arab.
See, this is one of the things liberal Zionists in their intellectual mode do. They will bore you to death with these vague-ass proposals. So we got these steps, and there are some sub-steps in them, and when those steps are completed, when that is certified, then we got some other steps, and then there are 2 tracks. And notice that the idea is to have the whole point of the 2 tracks, of course, is that they want Israel's relationships with Arab states, which are largely U.S. client states, to their negotiations to be separate and parallel to Israel's bogus-ass final status negotiations with the occupied Palestinian population.
Arab states that are taking key steps along the way vis-a-vis the Israelis and also Gaza reconstruction, etc.
Wait, Gaza reconstruction is way at the end?
So, and that would also support Palestinian admission to the UN as a member state, which would be part of that last step. I just want to...
At that last step, so we have not even established what territory, if any, they would be allowed to have for this state the U.S. is going to recognize.
Note that we at J Street presented this plan.
This bold plan, she's going to say it.
At our J Street Policy Center symposium that we held just 2 days ago on crafting a path forward out of this conflict and moving toward conflict resolution, 2 states as part of this comprehensive regional package. And
a comprehensive regional package, acronym CRAP.
I want to note as well that there is recent reporting that does indicate that the Biden administration is already moving in the direction that J Street is advocating.
What exactly? Because with the direction that the Biden administration has been moving on is that they're trying to have no Palestinians.
There's an important piece in the Washington Post just today that I hope my colleagues will put into the chat that indicates that the U.S. and a number of key Arab states, specifically Egypt and Jordan, which of course already have peace treaties with Israel.
Yeah, and I mean, those are interesting examples because both of them are under major domestic pressure to end the normalization. Especially Jordan is having massive demonstrations to open the border to, open the border to the West Bank and end the normalization, because people are not having with the fact that Jordanian airspace and the literal Jordanian Air Force are being used to support Israel in the midst of this genocide. So talking about, Egypt, specifically talking about Egypt and Jordan, that's only if their people have absolutely nothing to do with it, which clearly the idea is they shouldn't.
Israel as well as the Saudis, Qatar, the UAE, Palestinian representatives, are, as the pursuit of a deal is happening to try to pause fighting for at least 6 weeks and lead to the release.
This was 4 months ago, remember.
Hostages, these parties are already talking about the opening for a post-war moving forward to solve these conflicts. I will note
J
the
Street
danger
Symposium sounds like a great non-prescription sleep aid.
That's noted in the Washington Post piece. That's about what is happening in Rafah and the possibility that that could derail all of these very important developments. But we are very pleased to see that there is movement along.
Like, notice we're like 13 minutes into this, and this was the same thing with the last J Street thing. Yesterday we were looking at some J Street bullshit too, where it was they were checking in with the local student J Street chapter leaders about how stressful it is with the protests and stuff. And we got like 15 minutes into there before it was time to wrap up for the night, and the word Gaza didn't even get mentioned.
Along exactly the lines that we're talking about here.
You haven't actually explained what lines those are, except like, so really, really murky lines that can go in any direction and really give Palestinians no assurances at all.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for laying that out so clearly, and also for
laying that out so clearly. Laying that out so clearly. That was clear? Jesus, I'd hate to hear what vague sounds like.
Noting that piece in the Washington Post, which I think is really important. Nadav, I want to turn to you, and I know that you obviously have been very active, and Nadav has been volunteering in an integral part of the Hostage Families Forum in Israel, and very active in pursuing also and supporting families who are standing up in support for a negotiated stop to fighting and a release of the hostages. And
by which she means only the ones held in Gaza, not Israel's hostages.
And I want to ask you about Israeli public opinion relating to this proposal that we laid out.
Oh, well, it's great that you should ask that, because Israeli public opinion at the moment is overwhelmingly in favor of just exterminating Palestinians.
Especially at such a sensitive time. There's
sensitive time being that the Israeli economy is collapsing. To the extent Shir Heber, who is a professor of political economy over in Berlin, I forget which university there, but they had him on the Electronic Intifada live stream to talk about the situation within Israel. And one of the things he mentioned, and I thought was really interesting and very telling, was that Israeli death squad members in Gaza are not allowed to talk to their family and friends back home. And when he'd first heard about this, Shir had thought, as you might assume, that this was to ensure that the population back home did not realize what was going on in Gaza. But what he found when he dug deeper is that actually it's about making sure that, Israel's military personnel don't find out how bad things are back home. Because the economy is collapsing. Everything's just a complete fucking shambles. They cannot actually manage this for so long. They're spending huge amounts of money on this genocide. And not only that, they've been lying for months about how many military casualties they've had. The whole thing is just an absolute fucking shambles.
Recent polling indicating that the public has shifted further to the right.
That's a neat way of putting it.
As a reaction to the October 7th Hamas massacre. And
have there been any other massacres, I wonder, Adina?
Obviously, we've seen the statements of the Israeli leaders that are very much dismissing the concept of Palestinian statehood.
That's a neat way of putting it. I mean, they've explicitly said they want to kill all the Palestinians. I guess you could call that dismissing the concept of Palestinian statehood, which is, if we're honest, that's been the policy all along. except that they were pretending in order to actually, because it was a rhetorical concession. But now nobody feels any need to pretend.
And many in the Israeli public don't really want to talk about the possibility of two states recognizing a Palestinian state and also viewing it perhaps as a gift to Hamas following the October 7th massacre. Can you respond to this? What is the Israeli public opinion?
I mean, we're running out of time here, but I wonder if she's going to be just as vague about this next
on the issue of statehood.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very true that both Israelis and Palestinians, and Nidal will speak for the Palestinians, but both move to a more hawkish place. Which
a more hawkish place. Like that, like it's just the same situation. Like it's just both sides, just two sides, two equal sides. Like the Israeli public says they want to exterminate Palestinians, and Palestinians say they're in polls that they actually think quite highly of the people who are taking the fight to the people trying to exterminate them. It's just the same shit all over the place, isn't it?
Which is usually what's happening during a war, especially when Palestinians see the horrors in Gaza in Al Jazeera. And
they don't need you realize they don't need Al Jazeera to see the horrors in Gaza. They're there.
The Israelis see their own pain. And
yeah, like the wonderful TikToks of the Israeli goons, like rifling through women's lingerie drawers and shit.
Not the other side pain, and everybody are very in their insecurities and traumas, like you said, Dina.
Oh god, this guy's annoying the hell out of me. But it is time to wrap up. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back on Friday at 4:30 p.m. over on Hyperpolyglotting for another language and geogressor stream where we look at the best and worst of language YouTube. And then again at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time over here at the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. And we'll look at who's on their bullshit next week. Or, 4 months prior to that, like this video, which is a while ago, or in 1951. In any case, there will be bullshit, and we will look at it. And let me, just in case anyone in chat is not yet over in the Discord, I'm gonna drop that link right in here. For anyone who wants to join, that's where we can keep in touch in between streams, and suggestions are also can be made there and stuff like that, and messages that don't get through chat for whatever reason, you can post them there and I'll look for them during the stream or whatever. Anyway, thank you to everyone for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next week or in the Discord or whatever. Good night, good luck, Buck Zen.